Happy Monday. Hope you're doing absolutely great. It is time to talk policy, municipal policy. Now, before you go, I know this is not everybody's cup of tea. It is mine. The reason why we are talking about policy, and particularly a policy document today that is very important, it really does touch your everyday life. And it is something that it's kind of shocking that our municipality doesn't have this already, but the reason for that is amalgamation. I know you keep hearing that word. What is amalgamation? Well, 2022, the provincial government basically created 77 municipalities in St. Stephen, in the province, and St. Stephen, the Municipal District of St. Stephen, is one of those 77 municipalities, and that was eliminating certain rural districts or local service districts that just had absolutely no oversight and no bylaws whatsoever. It was something that was greatly needed. I think that one of the major critiques around it is that there wasn't enough planning, there wasn't enough funding, it was done very quickly, and people felt that. And so when you had communities that were kind of smashed together suddenly, it has been quite a period of adjustment. In fact, some municipal governments, some local governments, some councils actually imploded. They just couldn't make it work. So we are still standing here in the Municipal District of St. Stephen. And there's a lot of adjustment, including, as I mentioned just yesterday, the branding. The branding has come out of a sense that, okay, the former kind of town identity, middle of everywhere, it didn't fit with our now expanded municipal district with the rural area and kind of the agricultural beauty that lies in outside the urban core. And we're all one big family now, living together under the auspices of amalgamation that was put upon us by the provincial government and making it work, right? This is a period of adjustment. So this policy document that was added to the Committee of the Whole agenda meeting last Wednesday, very late, so I didn't mention it on Wednesday. When I was looking at the existing document, this can happen. It's just gonna, especially in Committee of the Whole, where it's more like a discussion style meeting. This document was introduced, and it is the Municipal Policy Framework Policy. And hey, you don't very often get a document with the word policy in it twice. And so if you're a policy lover, this is your dream come true. This is what I want to kind of go over today because I think it really does a great job. I have one critique or concern with it, but again, this is just an early draft. You will hear this a lot. I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole here. But, in order for something to become bylaw, it needs 3 readings. This is according to the Local Governance Act. And that is so that things can't be rammed through under the cover of darkness, right? It has to be read in the council meeting and made available to the public, and it's on the agenda. Then adjustments and amendments can be made. And then read a second time, and adjustments and amendments can be made, and the third time. Now, sometimes second and third readings can happen on the same night or in the same meeting or the same day, but it is an opportunity for the public to make adjustments. So sometimes the first time members of the public or residents hear about something, I've just seen this from following municipal meetings for the last 2 years, people go instantly to upset. I haven't been told. What the heck is this? Why have I not heard about this? And it's because, you're hearing about it now because this is the first reading. Well, this is even earlier than any sort of first reading where this is adopted. This is just put on the table as a draft, which is why it's very kind of rough. It doesn't look like a bylaw or anything yet. But it's one of those things that the new council will be dealing with, voting on, and helping to shepherd it into its final form. And so I'm particularly interested in this as someone who hopes to be sitting at the table as your mayor when this is officially adopted as a bylaw. Now, the purpose of it is to clarify the role of the council and the administration, especially under, what is now the Municipal District of St. Stephen under our new amalgamation. And this goes back to this. I've been saying this since day one. So again, I was really happy to see this, that council is responsible for decision-making and governance based on residents' feedback. So we decide as council what the priority is based on what you are saying to your council representatives, right? That's how this democracy works. And then you're going to elect a council based on priorities or leadership style, ways that you trust the council will be listening to you with an informed plan. However they make decisions, is it, I hear lots of old boys club versus evidence-based decision making and vision and planning outcome. That's up to you to decide who you vote in, why, and how. And then, of course, down here we have the administration who are implementing the decisions and the directions of council on your behalf, right? So this document essentially clarifies that with some language. So I just want to kind of go through with you and again talk to you about an area in this document that I think could be improved a bit. So the purpose, it says right here, and I'll link this to you in the description if you're on Facebook or YouTube. Establish a clear municipal framework for development, classification, approval, implementation, and review of council policies. Dysfunction happens when we don't have a clear view of who's doing what, or when council is trying to manage the administration, or when you have, as is, you hear this complaint sometimes, you have a CAO who is influencing council making decisions, and whether there's any truth to these claims or not, there is that sense, residents get a sense of dysfunction when the roles are not clear. Now that should be clear enough from the Local Governance Act, as I've been going through the last, 40 some days here, but a policy document like this, when it's on the books in the municipality, it is helpful to refer back to it. So then there's scope, there's guiding principles here. I don't want to take up much of your time with that. But the part that I was really, really interested in, and this is a crucial section of the document, is the policy hierarchy. You need to know this as a resident who lives here and who elects a council that decides things on your behalf, right? So the policy goes as follows. The provincial or federal legislation is at the top. This is an example of the Local Governance Act, which is a provincial legislation on how the local government, your Municipal District of St. Stephen, any of our the 77 entities, local governments around the province, how they conduct themselves, how they structure themselves, what's legal, what's illegal, what they can decide, what they can't decide. So provincial and federal legislation is at the top. Then next are municipal bylaws. Those are passed by council. And so that is number 2. Now 3 are council policies. And all of these things are defined here immediately under the section. So a bylaw is a legislative instrument enacted by council under statutory authority, enforceable within the municipality. It's basically binding on continuing kind of repeated behaviors, like the way that we conduct ourselves throughout the municipality, whether that's building codes or whether that's parks or whatever it is. There's bylaws, right? And so then you have council policy, and policy here is defined as establishing direction or principles or standards. You'll see resolutions passed in council sometimes. So it's important for you to distinguish between that. A policy, it really is saying, here's what we're trying to achieve, here's where we're going. It's a guide for decision making rather than something that's on the books, like I say, that is regulating consistent, regular behavior, how we live our daily lives, monthly lives, yearly lives in the municipality. Okay, so you have your top 3. Provincial, federal government, it basically overrules everything. Then you have municipal bylaws. Then you have council policies. Then you have administrative policies. So, the top 3 here are dealing with kind of council policy and decision. Now we get into the administrative. The administration is the bottom half of your local government. And there's policies regulating the staff and how things are done. And then there's procedures, and then that's number 5. Number 6 is protocols, and number 7 is work instructions. So you see, going from the macro to the micro, and I really think that that's important, because if there were starting to be, decisions that are unclear, the water gets a bit muddy, who's responsible for this versus that, the hierarchy is really important. And that's where I want to go in here. I was really happy with this section, distinction between council administrative documents, because I've always said to you that the council determines what on your behalf, what is being done, and the administration then goes and carries out how that thing is done. So for example, if council says we need to make housing a priority, I've on my website, buildupststephen.ca, you'll see my priorities. I want my priorities to be your priorities. We have a municipal plan. Those are now our priorities that we've adopted. Now, how do we do that? Do we tackle all 10 things at once, or do we kind of put them into an order of importance? And then even then, how do you start implementing housing policy in St. Stephen? Well, I've talked to you about the Economic Development Agency called Future St. Stephen that will go out, talk to housing developers, right? This is the how. Councillors are not expected to do this kind of full-time work. That is what we pay our taxes to, that full-time staff, the directors, the CAO, who are doing this stuff every single day. Councillors are out in the community discussing, making policy based on the kinds of things you want to see prioritized, and of course best practices, and a vision that frankly needs to be set by the mayor, I would say, in concordance with the council, taking us all in a direction which ultimately is guided by residents. So you have the what here of council. It says council policies establish governance direction and normally define what the municipality intends to achieve. And I really like that objective-based outcome. I'm a very objective-based person, and so the what is huge. Administrative policies are the how the organization then operates internally and provide operational guidance for implementing the council direction. So once that's straight in your mind as a resident, I think you can really trust your next council who understands what and then how. And that's where this picture that I've been holding up for a month now and change is really helpful. What up here, how down here. And then approval authority is extremely important for this. So council approves all municipal bylaws, council policies establishing direction for the municipality, policies affecting public or external organizations, and policies required by legislation. Of course, and remember what outranks the municipal policies or legislation is the provincial and federal bylaws and regulations. So, the chief administrative officer, then, the person at the top of the municipal staff, shall approve corporate administrative policies. So again, administrative policies, the bottom half of that hourglass, corporate procedures, operational protocols, internal policies. And then you have all the director heads, right? We have all of these departments inside the corporation who oversee different parts, and the directors have their specific things that they will approve. Now, the escalation requirements, this is the place that I thought needs a little bit more ironing out. And again, this is a draft. This current council may get this to more of a bylaw first reading place. But if I find myself in a position on the other side, because council is not permitted by the Local Governance Act to pass bylaws or any policies during an election period. So essentially, we're getting to the end of their ability to make policies and pass bylaws, and so the new council would pick this up. And the escalation requirements, just like the hierarchy, really, really important. And I'll just end with this here. It says, regardless of classification, documents must be escalated to the CAO or the council. And that language is super ambiguous. I'll say this again. Regardless of classification, documents must be escalated to the CAO or the council where they, and then it gives some conditions. Now, that, to me, that language is a bit problematic, because if you're saying council or CAO, it almost does this, right? It's like, well, council or CAO, it could be either one. Well, when their duties and when their hierarchy are so defined elsewhere in the document, this part's just a draft again, but I would recommend this part of the document needs a little bit more fleshing out. And I would actually separate them. So right now they're all one group. They must be escalated to the CAO or council where they affect public eligibility or access to services. Now, accessing services is huge to you as residents. Council needs to know that and inform you if there's let's say there's a cut in the budget and you are going to lose access to the swimming pool or something. Well, that's something you should know. Council needs to know that ASAP, right? Establish or change municipal service levels. I just described this, but again, if there was some staff and maybe there's nobody at the front desk anymore, it's all phone, you should know that. Require significant financial resources. If something's going to cost a lot more money, maybe affect your property tax or drop it, like you should know that. So to me, those first three, this should be distinguished. Those would be council needs to be alerted immediately. But then the others, CAO, create legal or liability risk. Well, again, the staff are doing this stuff every day. That would be more CAO. Affect labor relations. That's more CAO. And could significantly affect the municipality's reputation. Well, that's a CAO and staff matter, but it is also definitely a council matter because you as the residents need to know if something is going to significantly impact the municipality's reputation. So that again, where that to me fits in both CAO and council. So some of it is and, some of it is or, but anything that kind of puts them on par like this, I would say no, this document correctly establishes the hierarchy of council on your behalf as the resident. And so the escalation requirement is really important. You got your hierarchy, check. You've got your escalation requirement. Something needs to be, when a bell needs to be rung, who needs to be alerted? That's a really important feature as well. So just wanted you to know about this. Those are the really relevant sections of this document. That's on the table. You'll see council dealing with this likely by the end of this month. And hey, hope you enjoyed Policy Monday. I know I sure did diving into this. And this is an example of the way things become bylaw. We start talking about them. We make sure that things are defined properly, etc. All right, this video is getting too long. BuildUpStStephen.ca, the website. Find my priorities, our priorities, my priorities, our commitments, my commitment to you as a resident, and the action plan for how we make decisions together. Take care of yourself on this Monday. Take care of each other, and let's build up St. Stephen together. Cheers.